I want to start off with sort of a relatively unusual contribution, one which might sometimes be ruled out of order at a committee stage. But I want to refer to a clause which is not here, Mr. Chairman, and what I would like to ask the Minister about is new clause 78A and what happened to it. We have, Mr. Speaker, in the bill, if one looks carefully on the bill itself, at the top of page 58, running over from page 57, clause 78 straight, and then we have, looking at the supplementary order paper, clause 77 is amended at the bottom of page 61 of the supplementary order paper, but at the top of the supplementary order paper we have new clause 78B. And what I'm wondering, Mr. Chairman, is what has happened to clause 78A. Because, Mr. Chairman, I want some sort of assurance that there's not a printing mistake, that we haven't jumped over from one area to another by way of accident, and I'd appreciate even again, Mr. Chairman, if it's only a nod or a wink from the Minister. And I know that it'll be, I know the way these things are fixed up. When there's a drafting or a numeration mistake, as far as the bill is concerned, then the clerk's office, working no doubt with the Inland Revenue, will be able to sort it out later on, if in fact it is just a mistake, and there was never meant to be a 78A. But if there is meant to be a 78A, I just want an assurance from the Minister that it's not a vital clause. No, it's not a vital clause? No, you're allowed to. In committee stages, you're always allowed to go back and forth. So it's a drafting style issue. So that they don't have A's anymore. They have B's. Oh, so I apologise. It might be so we go now from nothing to B to C rather than from nothing to A. Well, I tell you what, if you're working away down the street or trying to find a flat and A was always missing, I'd like to submit, Mr. Chairman, it's a drafting lack of style, not a drafting style of course. My colleague has pointed out something which I had got to. Was the fact that and I would have got to it on my second or third or fourth call on this particular area. In fact, we have two areas of 79B. But I'll tell a member, and I'll get back to it. What the 79B in the SOP does is amend the 79B in the bill itself. Well, the member mightn't think so, but that was my interpretation. But I rely on my colleagues who have looked at this more carefully than I have. But the second question, the first one has been answered by a drafting style question, is to ask the Minister why the different arrangements for superannuation funds and retirement savings schemes vis-a-vis pies which are versus pies that are not. I cannot think of a good reason for having a different reporting system for the notification for investors. You have investors. Some people invest through superannuation schemes, or some of the pies. Are superannuation funds or retirement savings schemes, and some of them aren't. And it appears to be special treatment being given, delayed reporting treatment being given to the pies which are in fact themselves superannuation funds or retirement savings schemes. And I'd just like to ask the Minister to indicate why there is a delay and those extra advantages are placed in place for that particular type of scheme. I'd now like to talk about issuer status, Mr Speaker, and ask what is the system that the Inland Revenue use when... Mr Chairman, what is the system that the Inland Revenue use when they are making decisions after someone has notified under clause 79 79(1)(2)(b). I think I've already pleaded guilty to having some problems with the modern style that's been used within the legislation. Where it says to become an approved issuer, the person must notify the Commissioner that they wish to have approved issuer status, and the sort of people who have that approved issuer status is pretty well set out in the legislation. But the question that I do have is, does it then flow pretty much automatically that they get the approved issuer status there? And this doesn't appear, and again I'm subject to correction from my colleagues, and I'm talking now on the bill as it was reported back to the Select Committee at page 58, around lines 18 and 19. And these don't appear to replace any other legislation. And my question is whether there has always been, or whether this is necessary or not, or whether people had in the past had the ability to have issuer status without there being the necessity for legislation, whether it was something that whether there was a discretion there on the part of the Commissioner of Inland Revenue, or whether it's something that was just assumed. And I suppose the question goes over to Sir Roger Douglas and others about whether we are adding unnecessary detail in legislation. I don't think that we've ever indicated before that you had to write a letter in order to make an application, and whether in fact that complicates it. And the next question is the type of notification on line 18 on page 58 of the bill. Is the notification to be in writing? Is there a requirement for it to be in writing? Does a facsimile count? Is there a form on the IRD website? Can it be done by email? Is there a Facebook way of notifying the Commissioner that they want to have approved issuer status? And I just want to, the question is to these days, because I have been unable, and again I'm subject to correction by the Minister, I'm unable to find notification in this part of the legislation, and I accept that the Minister will probably berate me by saying this is not the new bit of the legislation, this is the bit of legislation that has been to the Select Committee, but and if I'd been on the committee I would have spent some time trying to work out at that stage what notification is, but seeing it... Sorry? Well, thank you to David. I think the opposition spokesperson on finance wants to pass his roll on, but I think that's not totally his decision, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the bill. Clauses, and I just want to check that 80B and C are still within this part of the legislation, because I wouldn't at this late stage want to jack out. Oh, sorry, I've marked the parts, but I haven't. Yes, they are. So they're still within Part 3 of the bill. Clauses. In fact, they must be part of it, because my colleague, the Honourable Pete Hodson, was referring to them before, and I think he was making the point which I would have made. Or I use the word mirror, because while there's been expression here of look through, in fact there appear to be some sort of mirror arrangements that are being set up, and the And I know that we shouldn't always expect tax legislation to be pure English, because, sort of my former colleagues who are accountants, and more especially those who are lawyers, if it was in plain English, they wouldn't make any money. But generally it should be. And this sort of mirror arrangement is quite